Oh, hi, it's Roger Daltrey. I've finally got through.
Oh, fantastic, Roger. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, good. I've been having a nightmare because I'm calling on Skype because I can't hear cell phones very well. I'm as deaf as a post.
Well, I mean, you've had the career that would make it right for you to be deaf as a post, so.
Yeah, I mean, it was something to do with the band being too loud.
I've heard that. I think Pete had the same issues, didn't he?
Well, with our hearing aids, I was deaf as a post. Everything was a mumble. But it comes with age anyway. I was a metal worker before I was 20. That didn't do my hearing any good either.
Hey, I wanted to say, I don't know if you celebrity types do the same thing as those of us who aren't celebrities, but every now and then we'll look around and see which famous people we share a birthday with. You and I both have March 1st as our birthday, so congratulations to us.
Oh, well done. Yeah, you got a big one coming up. I have.
Yeah.
Well, the next to the biggest, scary one of all. But Justin, what's his name? God, there's another singer who's really good. I can't got his name now. Anyway, it's that time of day for me.
Do you live here in the States? Are you jet lagged coming from the UK?
No, I'm coming from the UK.
Oh, okay.
And,
so, obviously your times are all off.
Yeah, I'm all over the place at the moment. We've been rehearsing quite heavily for tomorrow's show, so it's been fun. How bad is Florida in February? When everywhere else is freezing cold and minus degrees, here you are suffering in sunshine.
I know. I'm walking around in a tank top and shorts, and it's not even Valentine's Day yet.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's fantastic.
Brian Johnson and Mick Jagger both have homes here in the Tampa Bay, Sarasota area. In case you felt like moving someplace nice and warm, you'd be in good company. So I just wanted to put that out there for you.
You call that good company? You call that good company? Come on,
Well, I would, but I guess you get to make a slightly different call on that one.
I'm only jiving them.
Yeah. I got to say, I'm a few years younger than you. And when I was coming up through my rebellious teenage years, the loud, aggressive music was like heavy metal from bands like Motley Crue and Metallica. But when The Who was starting in the mid-'60s, you guys were the heavy metal of your day, the loud, aggressive music for the rebellious teenagers. Did it feel that way to you in the moment?
No. We were never quite a heavy metal band. We did one live album which kind of people latched on to for being heavier than most of the other music we played, and that was Live at Leeds. But we never were really heavy metal. Pete's songwriting was very, very different than any of that stuff. He writes in a classical form. His chord voicings and everything were very, very different than any of the other bands. It wasn't the most commercial music. His lyrics weren't the most commercial lyrics. There were very few, I Love You songs, or Love Me Do songs. But it allowed us to be our own band. We didn't copy anyone else. We were original.
Not that The Who necessarily was heavy metal, but you guys were the loud, aggressive, rebellious music of the day when, you were really starting to make it big in the 60s. So did it feel like you were the rebellious band on the scene at the time?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you used the word aggressive. Our music was in those days, some of it was quite aggressive. We were angry. We wanted to change the world like most adolescents and young adults want to do. You know everything at that age, don't you? and we were extremely loud. We were the loudest band on the whole circuit. The 4x4 stack, the Marshall 4x4 stack, was designed for the Who and Hendrix. That Jim Marshall built that sound for us, and we always used to go into his shop because he lived local to where we grew up, and ask him, "Come on, Jim, get it louder, and make it bigger." So yeah, it was loud, but again, I mean, here we are all these years later. What's so strange about Pete Townshend's music and the Who's music is that it doesn't seem to date. it sits in its own pocket, and the songs are kind of timeless.
I mean, that is the mark of all the best bands, and I 100% agree. You know, all of your songs really do have a timeless sound. You wouldn't hear them and go, that obviously is from the 50s or 60s or whatever. You know, it really is. It could be released today and be just as good.
Yeah. I'm really happy with the way our career has ended up, because at the moment, The Who are out with just not only the big sounding rock band we are, but we've got an orchestra with us as well, and that adds a completely different dimension. The orchestra's playing some serious arrangements that aren't just keyboard pads like a block of strings, and there's something about the sound of real instruments playing some of Pete's melodies that it does a totally different thing to the human body. It touches you in a different way than a synthesizer does. It makes it much more emotional. It's incredible, the sound it's getting.
I totally agree with you. You were talking about building your sound with Jim Marshall and stuff, but you actually hand-built your very first guitar just to join a band. How in the world were you at that level where you could build? I don't know anybody who could build a guitar today that doesn't have a guitar shop. I mean, how did you pull that off?
Let me tell you, it wasn't just me that built my first guitar. Keith Richards, I think he built his first guitar. I mean, we came from a generation just out of the war. I was actually born in the war, as was Keith. We had nothing. We were on food rationing. And when we saw Elvis and all those guys coming up, and there was this thing out there called rock and roll, God, got to have it. But no way were we ever going to afford to buy a guitar. But there was something, and, our parents could do things other than look at a screen and push buttons. It
was a pretty self-reliant time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he just went out and thought, well, I'll get that lump of wood there, and I'll get that lump of wood there. I studied guitar through a shop window, and it went on from there. The guitars weren't very good, but they allowed me to make a noise, learn how to tune it, get it in tune, and play three chords, which is all you needed for the early, skiffle songs.
You've been touring and singing longer than a lot of people have been alive, and having done your Who songs and your solo stuff now for 6 decades or more, is there still a song, either one of your solo or one of the Who tracks, that just gives you... Do what?
Less of them more. 6 decades too.
Is there still a song out there that gives you the tingles to play live that's really fun for you personally, that still just gives you that great feeling?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I think one of the most... There's something about Love Rain on Me that still does it for me. There's something about the melody of it and the sentiment. It's primal. It's the very root of what we all are. It's the seed of life. That song's kind of got it in there.
You are in both the U.S. and U.K. Rock and Roll Halls of Fame. Was one of those a bigger deal for you? I would think that the U.K. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame would have been a much more important thing for you than the U.S. one.
Of course, it's an honour to get those awards, but those kind of places to me seem like the Hard Rocks without the hamburgers.
All right, I got a buddy in here, Anthony, who is a huge fan, and he wanted me to ask you specifically about Keith Moon's exploding drums on the Smothers Brothers show back in the day. Was that the first time you got some hearing damage?
Oh no. He'd blown us up several times before that. Don't worry about that. But that was a much more serious explosion than anyone realised at the time. And thank God we kind of played it down, because the Smothers Brothers almost got sacked for that. It caused such a furore in the studio. But it was... if you look at it and study the piece, you'll see Pete patting his head. And the reason that he's doing that is not to try and make his hair look good. his hair was alight.
He was on fire?
He was on fire, yeah. And if you notice, I just got blown to the floor. It was a bomb went off. I mean, it was insane.
Oh, man, that is probably the greatest story ever. Before we go, I always like to, you've got a bunch of charities that you are a part of. In fact, one that you founded yourself, the Teenage Cancer Trust. I want to share something about that with everybody because I love when people like you do huge things for charity. And so tell us about the Cancer Trust that you founded.
Well, the Teenage Cancer Trust is the English version that I've been involved with now for like 32 years. And we observed all those years ago that teenagers and young adults with cancer, and there's quite a lot of them every year, were being isolated, going through their illnesses. And of course, that is the formative years of our whole life. And to isolate people at that time of life is probably the most damaging time of all, that you can isolate them, because they don't quite know who they are. Their whole personality is being formed. They're trying to go out with their friends, have girlfriends, boyfriends, all the stuff that we did when we were teenagers. And to isolate them was virtually criminal. You know, they were being stuck on their own with the most horrendous diseases. And we decided let's do something about this. There's no reason for the isolation apart from if they're immunocompromised. Let's try and get the hospitals to rethink this, or we'll rethink it, and we'll build spaces within hospitals where they can be a community and be together. They can be amongst their peers. And so I've been doing that for 32 years in England. That's the Teenage Cancer Trust. And just over 10 years ago, I started Teen Cancer America, along with my business partner, Rebecca Rothstein. And Teen Cancer America now has been going since 2012, and we have programs in 52 of your top cancer hospitals around America. And not only have we kind of helped them out in the hospitals themselves, but what it's done by us being there, we provide a crucible for the science. They can't ignore this age group anymore. For too long, there's been so much cancer research money going into researching cancers in old people that have had a very, very, very long life. And hardly any research has gone into adolescent and young adult cancers. But we have changed that because we now have a presence in the medical hospital system. They are now starting to do the research on this age group. And it's always been my opinion, I don't know whether it'll be proved right, I do hope it is, that the answers to some of the big questions in cancer are more likely to be found in this age group that we serve. Because if you look at a teenager, it's almost like a cancer cell, out of control. Completely out of control cell. So there you go. I'm passionate about it, and like I say, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. Running foundations, everybody and their aunt seems to have their own foundation in America, but a lot of them, I hate to say, don't produce very much.
No, that's true.
And I'm pleased to say that we are producing an awful lot.
Well, I will share links to all of your trust, and hopefully we'll get some people locally to also help and donate, because it's awesome what you're doing.
Okay, well, you've been